Recording started. Beautiful. So we're going to be recording this session today so that we can have it out on our YouTube channel for anyone who wants to know more about finding your spark, finding your passion, keeping your passion alive, with Laura Best with the Passion Collective. So I've got with me today Laura Best, and I'll introduce her further in just a moment. Along with me today, from the Get Her Hired team, we have Lourdes Hernandez Dayton. She is a resume writer, organizer, cat herder extraordinaire. And then we've got Anne-Marie Schofield. She's joining us from out in California. She is our chief of staff here at Get Her Hired. She's the one where if I'm not around, ask Anne-Marie the questions. She knows all the answers. And even when I don't know the answers, I ask Anne-Marie. So these are a couple of our Get Her Hired team members. And then let me introduce Laura Best. Laura, I'm so excited you're here today. We are launching, this is our third Undeniable session. And I'm delighted to have Laura here. I've known Laura since pre-pandemic. I've known you, I remember I very nervously asked you out for coffee like 7 years ago or 8, something like that. Cause I was like, oh, I want Laura's advice, but I'm so nervous because she's so cool. And now look at this.
That's so nice. I still remember it was a very nice coffee and a very
It
nice
was a
tea.
great coffee.
We may even
Yeah.
have had cake. Typically, I tend to work cake into things, so I'm sure
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
had cake
I'm a
somewhere
cake
along
fan.
the way.
Absolutely. So a little more about Laura, and I'll let Laura, of course, introduce herself as well. But she's the founder of the Passion Collective, and they're here for anyone who wants to do more in their work and their life. She works with women, men, thems, everybody, and advocates for people to find that spark in their career, know what it is, and also light up their life a little bit more. Her manifesto is we deserve to be happy and fulfilled. We all have passion in us. We each have each other's backs always. We decide what lights us up, no one else. We use our unique passions to lift others up. People, she's got a book coming out. She showed me the cover the other day. It's called Born to Buzz: How to Spark Your Passions Without Quitting It All. It's launching later this year, and hopefully she'll tell us a little bit more about it. But she's a keynote speaker, a coach, an author, a fractional content leader for purpose driven businesses. Laura is amazing with what she does with the Passion Collective. I'm going to pause there. What else should we know about you, Laura? Tell us.
Ooh, apart from being mum of a teenager who loves tennis. So as we were talking about earlier, there's a lot going on with tennis right now to get ready for the fall season. I'm obviously not from the US of A, even though I'm a citizen, just FYI, just in case anyone's listening. I was born in England. And I moved to the Twin Cities in 2000 after coming here one summer as a 19-year-old and having a wonderful summer. So I built a career in advertising and marketing and ended up staying, and here we are in 2025. So,
Oh, wonderful.
yes.
Wow. That is so great. And you had a really big career. Can you tell us a little bit more about, what we're talking about today is we want to name what we want. We want to get unstuck, remember what moves us. And there's so much interesting information about your journey, what led you to create the Passion Collective. Would you share some insights with that? Because you were a big deal, big corporate deal. You're a big deal now. You're even bigger deal now, but
Nice.
you were like a big deal.
Oh, that's very nice, Kate. That makes me feel good on this Thursday morning. Um, no. Uh, I got to so I had built, I'd moved to America. I'd sort of come here for the dream, right? I was 26. I was like, America and advertising. And funnily enough, 9 months after I moved here, I was laid off when I was 26 years old. I'd moved my entire
Oh,
life. Yeah, I'd moved to Minneapolis with a suitcase and $500 to work for this advertising agency who once I got there, I realized, oh shit, they have no money. This could get interesting. So if anyone's worked in the advertising business, you know how up and down it is. So when I was 26, I lost my job for the first time. And man, had I wished that I'd known Kate Wade and the Get Her Hired team then, because it was very, very scary, especially as an immigrant on a visa, even back then. But somehow I had the determination and the passion to stick with it and to find a new job. Ended up really pivoting to a career in digital marketing, digital technology before it kind of even existed. This was in 2001. This is sort of before social media even. So I ended up building this successful career based on this sort of dream goal of living in America and doing all this fun stuff in an amazing city with amazing people. And then, years went by and I, climbed the ladders and went sideways and backwards and all the things that we do. And then I had my daughter, my beautiful daughter Sophia. And I ended up in a job that was very demanding, like I'm sure many of you all have had or even have right now, traveling all the time up and down from Minneapolis to Dallas, Texas, working with a great crew, actually. It was a national technical consulting firm, but I'd ended up doing work that if you told me when I was 26 what I was doing, I was like, I'd got very good at it. That's not grammatically correct, but I'd got good. But I got to this point where I realized that I had lost sight of really truly what I love to do in my work. And when I look
Mm.
back, some of that is the fact that I was a mom of a 3-year-old and,
Oh, yeah.
went back to work when I shouldn't have, physically or mentally, because who has enough leave over here? Back straight back into a demanding job. Um, and I was definitely burning out in the classic sense of the word. Um, when I was working in that consultancy, and I'm sure many of you relate to this, you would pitch business and then you'd win the business and the client would say, yeah, but we want that team. And it's like, but
Yeah.
I'm already doing 40 hours a week over here. How are we going to fit it in? So there was that sort of classic burnout of not enough time, not taking care of myself on the inside. On the outside, if you'd seen me back then, you would have thought that, oh, well, everything's great.
Hmm.
Dressing in the suits and doing all the stuff, right? But I'd really realized that I'd lost touch with what I loved. And I just remember it wasn't really this one moment, but there were these moments where I was like, how did I get here? Like, I
Yeah.
know I should be grateful and I am grateful, but how did I get here? It's not a bad thing, but why doesn't it feel better? And also, didn't I used to have fun outside of work? Didn't I used to have things that I used to do? And didn't I used to have this passion and joy about things? And where has all that gone? And how on earth do I find it? So I
Yeah.
started asking these questions and realizing, and this is when I was 36-ish, realizing, oh boy, I don't know. I don't know how to figure this out. And I started looking and no one was talking about this. I mean, now we've got Brene Brown on
Hmm.
Netflix and, talking about vulnerability seems to be, you do that at happy hour now, right? But back then we weren't having conversations about, shit, maybe I need a different path, but I don't know
Absolutely
what the
not.
path is.
Yeah.
So I created Passion Collective. It was a small Facebook group to start with. I just
Oh,
started putting,
really?
yeah. So what I did was I was like, right, I'm just going to start sharing things I love because I'd also realized, Kate, and I know you know this as a marketing professional, someone with that experience, I had become very good at being a voice for other people in my
Hmm.
job, writing the decks. And I was in marketing. I've got 29 years of marketing experience, right? So even to the point where if the CEO needed an email, it's like, well, Laura, write that. It's yeah, sure. We just know how to be the voice for brands and leaders. But I realized that I had retreated inside and I, number one, didn't know what I loved anymore. And number two, I was worried about sharing it. I think
Yeah.
because I had spent so much time building this persona in this career, I was like, well, if I share this thing, maybe they'll think less of me, right? So there's all that goes into it. So I
Hmm.
started a Facebook group. I called it Passion Collective because I was looking for passion and I wanted to do it together. It was a women's community to start with because I missed women. I was an only in a lot of these leadership situations, loved working with the guys, but I felt like as women, we had very different challenges and barriers that we needed to talk about. So it
Yeah.
grew and grew. And here we are 11 years later. So Yes, it really came from that classic entrepreneurial need of I need this thing, it doesn't exist, so I'm going to go and build it. I'm going to build what I
Oh,
want.
that's beautiful. Wow, I didn't know it started as a Facebook group, but that makes a lot of sense. I mean, you've just been sharing. If you can relate, please put a note in the chat. We'd love to hear if at 36, at 26, 26, and 36, like these kind of pivotal ages, these middle of these decades, you're like, what the gosh? Excuse my French, but like, wait a minute, where am I? Jackie's here. She's like, a million percent.
Bazillion.
Yes, totally relates. Yes. And it sounds like you were doing great work. And I relate to that too. I was doing really good work. And
Yeah.
yet again, too, I relate to that. I was the voice for other people very, very often. And the honor I felt, but then also the frustration I had when the CEO would ask, to compose something for them, that kind of thing. So I totally feel it. So tell us then a little bit about we want to, and I think a lot of people here can relate to the sense that we need a bigger spark, a bigger purpose in our life. You've talked with thousands, hundreds of thousands, well, a lot of people, let's put it that way. What are the themes that come up for that you're seeing in with your team around people who are craving something more? What are the key themes you see that maybe we can relate to?
Oh, so many. We could have the whole conversation just on this. And actually, my book is split into 12 sparks. So that's how I've
Oh,
organized it. And the sparks are really themes and almost promises that we make to ourselves in order to live a passion first life. So there's so
yeah.
many. I actually had a hard time just picking 12. But I'll give a couple of positive ones to you, and then some of the other ones are a bit more challenging. I feel like there's a craving often for creativity. Um, we typically in many of our corporate jobs, we get to do sort of creativity with a little c, I suppose. It's like, oh, be creative, find a new way to reschedule that meeting with 300 people on it for next week. It's like, that isn't really creativity. Yes, okay, it's creativity, but we're not often given the space in our jobs to be truly creative and to express what's in our heart and soul, right? Because you could argue, well, that's more like art and business is business. So that sort of crossover doesn't happen as much if you're not in that type of job. And we tend to box ourselves in and say things like, well, my job isn't really that creative. But inside, we're like, God, I'd love to be a bit more creative. So there's this sort of weird juxtaposition of that creativity. There's also, I think, a real craving for connection, which passion
Yeah.
can absolutely give us. And in my keynote, I talk about how, harmonious passions, which are the good passions, actually give us three main things. They give us a sense of autonomy. So typically, if you're doing something that you love that's really good for you, there's that sense that you have your autonomy back, even for an hour. And it's, you're in control again of something. When I was in corporate, I used to love, I don't do it as much, but I used to really love baking. And one of the reasons I
Yes.
loved baking is that in an hour, I could bake a cake, I could decide what I wanted to do. I made it on my own. And then at the end, I had something to show for it, right? So there's this sense of autonomy. The second one is competence. So typically, a harmonious passion, it doesn't mean that you have to be amazingly good at everything you do. Actually, that's a really bad idea to think that you're going to crush every single thing that you're going to love. You can actually really suck at something that you love. That's okay. But typically, a harmonious passion gives you this feeling inside like, ooh, I'd like to be better at that. How do they do that? I want to do that. There's this sort of curiosity to grow. And then the third one is connection. So it's this
Yeah.
feeling of connection either with community or with a cause or for ourselves. So there's some really positive things that passions can give us. And I think what people end up craving, it's sort of if you back into those things, that's what people are craving, but may not actually know it. I didn't
Mm-hmm.
realize that's what I was craving. It's only now, after years of research and building this community and talking to so many people, that I'm piecing these things together. On the flip side, a lot of the themes, and this is why I love doing what I do, a lot of the themes are barriers. and
Mm,
challenges. Um, I see, like any coach, I see a lot of people who are stuck. You know, I actually once had a friend before I started Passion Collective, we went for a walk, and a friend said to me, she said, I feel like you're standing, you're standing on a shoreline because we're actually walking around a lake. You're standing on the shore and you're looking out to the horizon and you're sort of wondering how you're going to get there. And that
yeah.
feeling has really stuck with me because I think the horizon for me was what I'm doing now and Passion Collective and trying to build this thing. But I had
Yeah.
to conjure it in myself to, first of all, believe that I was worth it. And I see a lot, especially with women. It's actually the
Mm,
first step in our process for our course, Passion Finder. The first step is remembering and believing that truly you are worth it, not in a L'Oreal because I'm worth it moment, even though that's fine. But we truly forget that we actually deserve to be happy and fulfilled in our work
yeah.
and our life. Um,
Oh my gosh.
it's not that we come after, because that's typically what we spend our days doing. Um,
Right.
and that's why my
Absolutely.
book talks about a passion first life. It's not a passion only life. You know, it's not
Hmm.
that we always get to do everything we love every minute of the day, but we've forgotten how to put our passions first. The second
Hmm.
theme is often people don't know what their passions are, or they say they don't know what their passions are. And so there's this sort of frozen state of, oh yeah, I feel like I'm like Blair or Mare, but I don't know, what are my
Yeah.
passions? What do I love to do with my job? Because I'm kind of in this role that I got myself into. I'm good at it, but I don't love it. But I don't know, what do I? There's sort of this, and that's a very common theme, and people can get stuck there for years. And that's where I can help a lot of people kickstart. Um,
Yeah.
there's also this theme of time and resources. Um, it's so funny. I love going toe to toe with people on this at happy hours. There was actually a guy who challenged me on this a couple of months ago, like, well, yeah, I mean, you know, I haven't got the time to do all this stuff, and who's got the money to pursue your passions? And there's a lot of the stories that we tell ourselves about this. And I'm not saying that things aren't crazy right now and resources are limited for people, but we tend to tell ourselves this sort of theme or idea that we should only do something we love if we can do it at full tilt. You know, well, you know, I can't afford to go to that retreat to Hawaii for 2 weeks with those women, so therefore I'm not going to do anything at all. You know,
Right.
I'm a huge believer in picking apart these things and figuring out, well, what is it about that thing that you're drawn to that you can do in your week? It's often
Yeah.
these things are made up of elements that draw us in. So it might be that you can take one of those things and spend some time there and actually nurture your passion. It's not just this big road to Damascus moment where it's like, oh, right, now I've got a passion and everything's fixed. It's typically doesn't work that way. So there's lots
Yeah.
there. There's lots of really good stuff,
Yeah.
and then there's sort of lots of themes about stuckness for sure.
Well,
Stuckness,
what
I
are
made up
these
a
things?
word.
So we hear these things too. So when we're meeting with a client, we work with women and men and thems, everybody. But we do hear a lot. One of the things that Lourdes and I really work on when we're developing content for a client is the information that's not on the resume. So typically, people are coming to us for a CV, they're coming to us for a resume, and they give us their past CV, they give us their LinkedIn profile, and that's not actually enough. That's not enough because the person has so much more about them that helps them stand out. Like there are a billion users on LinkedIn right now, and we need to be one in a billion to stand out. And so the things you're talking about right now, Laura, the things that light us up, what are the things where I feel that autonomy? Where are the places where that creativity comes through and I enjoy it? Where am I really competent and want to brag about where I'm competent? This is a tough one for a lot of people to brag about where they're
Mhm.
competent. But we do find that part of the work that we do can be very coach like in that we're helping people see their stuckness and see that people will also tell us, well, I don't know, there's nothing else to tell you, I don't have any volunteer work. I don't have any patents. I don't have any of these things to add. And then they can feel really bad about themselves,
Yeah.
right? There's the shame element that comes in at times too. So, but I love what you're saying about we all have something that will light us up. So, what are some signs, or so we know the signs that keep us, that keep people from understanding what lights them up. But when you think about a small step someone might be able to take to start feeling unstuck and reconnect to their passion, what's something that might inspire them today to like just go out and allow?
Yeah. Oh, I like that. Go out and allow. Um, well, the first thing I mentioned was obviously recognizing, accepting, committing to the fact that you are absolutely worth it. That's typically not
Yeah.
a point in time. That's not something that, especially as women, we're like, oh, right, check that off our list. Okay, great. Now I like that's a continual practice of remembering that we are incredible human beings. And I want everyone here to know this and to remember this, that you have unique magic, talent, and beauty and energy inside of you, even if you don't feel it right now. You know that you've got something inside of you, you know. And the hard thing is defining it, right? And expressing it, which is really what a lot of what we're talking about today. So often, if you've been in a corporate gig for years and years, or if you've been living a life that maybe, more of a duty rather than a passion, which many of us have done, it can take years to remind yourself and to recommit to that. So aside
Mhm.
from that worthiness and knowing that you should put your passions first wherever possible, the second piece of it, and people, whenever I say this, people are like, what? But this second piece is incredibly important. If I were to ask most people I speak to who come to me who are seeking more passion, okay, well, what does passion feel like to you? Most people are like, what do you mean? We are disconnected from what that feeling of passion is for us as an individual.
Cool. Mm.
Nobody can tell you what you feel passionately about, and no one can tell you what your passions are. I bet so many of you today have tried stuff. Like someone said, oh, you should really try horse riding because you'll really love it. You love animals. And then you go horse riding and you're like, oh my God, this is the worst thing. I hate this more than life itself. Get me off this thing right now. No, I do not love horse riding, right? That's great. I don't love horse riding because I've got weird hips. But anyway, that's just me. Actually, my story is cross-country skiing. Cross-country skiing, I've tried so many times. You'll never get me to love cross-country skiing. I'm sorry, cross-country skiers. It's not going to happen. But all my friends are like, oh, you should do it. There's a lot of these shoulds, right? You know
Laura,
inside,
that's like me in yoga. I'm like, no,
right?
don't. I've
Hate you should
tried so
really do
many times to
yoga.
yoga.
So we do a lot of this, and talk about, in the workplace, often we don't even have a choice sometimes. It's like, well, you've got a degree in this, or you led that team for 5 years.
Yes.
You should really love accounting because you're good with numbers. And it's like, what? So
Oh,
there's
I
a
had
lot of
that happen to
that.
me. Yeah.
But it's up to you. And this is where people are like, oh, Laura, you mean I've got to do some work? I'm like, yep, you got to do some work. Um, you have to reconnect with what passion feels like to you. And there's all sorts of exercises that we offer for that. Our Passion Finder course is brilliant for it. But there's, one big thing you can do to try to remember what lights you up is to actually go back into your past, which I know sounds crazy because sometimes
No.
we feel like the past is baggage, or oh God, I don't want to remember that toxic job situation, or oh, I thought I put that behind me, or oh, that was when I was 28, you know but there's a lot of good in our past that we can look at and dissect. And I'll use a non-work example just because it's easier, but let's just say, actually, I'll use one of my examples. I used to do a lot of snowboarding in my early 20s. I was a
Oh,
And it's because, by the
wow.
way, I had a boyfriend who
Okay.
snowboarded. It wasn't my idea.
Well,
Anyway,
then of course
I
you did.
yeah, I learned how to do it. It was never particularly very good, and it really is hard. But did it for a long time, and was very lucky to be able to do that. And then, got out of it and thought to myself, I really should get back into snowboarding because I used to love it, right? Then realized my body was not the same and my money situation was not the same and it just wasn't a fit. So I kind of dismissed the whole idea of doing anything related to that. Just, oh, I'm too old. Whatever. I'm 20 pounds. I haven't got the money. Can't go to Canada. Like all of those things. But then when you actually look back, when I look back on my experience and you look at the elements of that passion that I used to have, it wasn't just the act of being on this, metal tray going down a slope really, really fast without brakes. It was all the other elements of being outside, the social aspect, the clothing, the nature. There's all these other pieces. And then you start to think,
Mhm.
well, what about those elements can I carry forward into today? And maybe there's an activity or a cause or a work situation where I can take some of those things that lit me up and I can bring
Yeah,
them forward, and then I can evolve that into maybe a slightly different passion. So
yeah.
that's sort of more of the how stuff. I'm slipping into the how, but
Mhm,
it's
mhm,
incredibly important to think to yourself and to decide what passion feels like to you. When we do this as
mhm.
groups, we actually come up with our word, our passion word, which for some
Cool.
people is quite tricky. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, but you know it when you got it. And mine is fizzy, Fizzy or Fizzzy. When I'm engaged in something that I truly love, I just feel this. When I'm not, it's like a flat line. It's like
Ooh,
flat line and
yeah.
fizzy, am I too? And we see, because a lot of people think passion is just fire or like the cliched, like, flame or like lovers. And there is a lot of cultural sort of baggage around the word passion as well. If
Yeah.
you think of the passion of Christ, like slave to passion, like there's all of that. But it's
Mhm,
amazing the words that some people come up with. Some people have like calm and peace.
mhm,
Some people
mhm.
have like this righteousness, and that they're the people who tend to get into causes and they want to fight, and they've got a word that's more around that and they want to channel
Yeah.
their uniqueness into that. We have all sorts of words that come out of these sessions, and that is really then something that you can use to guide your choices. Because often
Yeah.
what we do, especially as women, and sorry, there may also be people who aren't women on this, but as a woman, we tend to sign up for all the things, right? We
Yeah.
join the committees, we try this, we try that, we're following all these people on Instagram, whatever. If you can get clearer about how that feels to you, it will help you make those decisions. And by the way, to do that, again, this isn't just a 5-minute job, but to get clearer on that, you have to try some stuff. And like the
Mm,
cross country skiing example, or horseback, you have to
yeah.
kind of do some things and be like, yeah, I didn't love that. I wonder why I didn't love that. And sometimes you just don't. And you put it to one side and you take the elements again and you try again and you pay
Yeah.
attention and you note and you use that to guide you forward. So,
I
how
love
it
that.
feels is the big thing that I would love everybody to think about. How does passion feel to you, especially in your work?
If anyone knows that right now, if they can describe it, give us a note in the chat. So we want to open up this conversation and have it here, because we're at work or we're looking for work, and this is definitely a big part of our lives, and a big part of our day is the way that we're in a working environment, earning money, etc. And that disconnect we can have when we're lacking the passion in our lives. Laura, I'm sorry, I have a microphone here. I forgot. The thing, I'm like clutching my heart.
It's like, ah.
But I think about, the people I meet who have this like joie de vivre that goes beyond the tactical. Um, it's it permeates everything they do. It doesn't matter if they're at a 9 to 5 where they're doing data entry. If they have that joy and that spark in their life, and they tend to it, it's something that just can make life so much better, regardless of if you're in a role that is not that exciting, is maybe not mission based. I talk to a lot of people who want to work for a company that's, doing things for the community, doing
Mm.
things, good things for the world. Um, and could you talk for just a moment about, so I'm in a job, I like you said when we opened, I'm good at my job, right? Completely competent at it. And yet I'm bored out of my skull and I need something else. Like, how do people, when they come and work with you on this, how do they go about like transforming how they show up and how they feel at work so that work becomes okay?
Hmm. Oh my God. If I had the answer to that, Kate, I think I'd be, you and I would be on a like 300-foot super yacht. Is 300 foot big? I don't know. A really big super yacht somewhere. But I'm going to give you my best, my best shot.
Come on, Laura, you've
Oprah, are
got
you
it.
listening? No, in all seriousness, I want to share a story which will maybe sort of balance this a little bit because I'm with you. I think that can sometimes be the hardest thing. I'm not saying that looking for a job is not difficult. I know because I've been laid off twice and it's really, really difficult. But sometimes when you're in a job and you don't have a choice, actually, you got to stay there and you got to pay the
Yeah,
bills and
yeah.
you're just trying to keep things steady, but you don't love it. And there's things, it isn't a harmful or toxic situation. I certainly have been in one of those. And it's not like you have to get yourself the hell out of there for personal safety. It's more like I got to figure out a way to make this work. It can feel this sort of deadening, daily crushing feeling that you're constantly trying to,
Mhm,
morning. I mean, that if you
mhm.
do that for months and years, I know because I've done it, it creates a lot of problems. I had in said toxic job some years ago. I had a really interesting uh, what's the best way to describe it? It wasn't really a conversation. I had gone to my leaders actually, and I'd said, "Hey, so the job I was hired for is not the job that you're asking me to do anymore. Kind of done that job, and I was brought in for that reason, and fireworks, amazing, great, right? Done all that. Now we're a couple of years on, and it's changed beyond all recognition, and it's turning into something that is not lighting me up. Shock horror, I should say that, but this is me. And I believe that, this is, I need to feel that I'm lit up by these things. So I actually went to them with a proposal to sort of change my job.
Ah,
And in hindsight, by that point, it was way too late, and this firm was never going to be the one to sort of accommodate. I think the response was, "Yeah, that's not part of our strategy. See you later. Nail in the coffin. Boom, boom, boom."
yeah,
In the
yeah.
same conversation, so that's not the thing to do. In the same conversation, the one of the leaders said to me, he said, "Well, Laura," very patronizingly, by the way, "Well, Laura, what you've got to understand is, as a leader, you should expect that at least 30% of your job is work that you really don't like, and you just really have to realize that that's just the way life is." And the only thing I can tell you in that moment is I still can't believe I did this, but I just said, "Oh, I'm sorry, but that's not good enough for me."
How
Clear as
dare you,
day.
Laura? How
Clear
dare
as
you?
day. And I was like, "Oh shit, that's nail in the coffin number two." And I remember he looked at me like I was this strange alien. And actually, I think he had very good intentions. I think he was telling me, like, this is how it is. Suck it up for 30% of your week. Now, if anyone's good at math, I am not. That's a lot of hours in a year. Think of how much time. And this isn't just like, "Oh, I don't really like that too much." It's actively disliking something where you're
Mhm,
just like, "Oh, suck it up.
mhm.
30, at least 30%, girl, for you to win these amazing awards of corporate leadership perks." You know what I mean? Um, so that I think is a I've experienced that, and that is a reality for a lot of people. And I just have the personality where I spoke up and I expressed my voice, and many people
Mhm.
aren't in that situation or are able to do that. In the years since, I have done a ton of research for my book and for Passion Collective, and I've discovered a concept called job crafting. I did not invent it. I wish I had. It's by a group of academics. And the idea behind job crafting is that you take a job description that you were given or you have, you know what these job descriptions are like, that typically, you know, Kate, they're sort of created for that hiring moment. And
Right.
then you actually get into the job and you're like, oh, there's a bunch of stuff that they didn't put in this job description. So, you know, whatever job description you have, and your job is to do the work ahead of time to figure out what lights you up in your work, right? And let's
Mm.
assume that you have more information about, you know what, I really love, you know, leading these types of teams. I really get a kick out of solving those types of problems. Or I love it when I have some time to mentor other people or develop program, whatever, right? Whatever that is. And what you're trying to do is you're going to, and they're not necessarily skills, by the way. They probably sound a bit like skills. They are skills, but they're the things that make you, in my word, fizzy. And
Yeah.
then you have your natural sort of personality and desire to do certain things that you layer on top of that. The idea is you get clear about, okay, I've got this job and I know I need to be on this committee. Tis what it is. But hey, what if we brought this into it? You know, we've all met, you know, I used to have a gym instructor who did the most amazing step class, right? Anybody can do a step class, you know, with the boxes. This is like super
Yeah.
90s, but anyone can up and down and up and down and up and down. This guy loved fashion and he loved ballet. And he would bring the elements of fashion and ballet and just crazy rudeness and fun to what could have been a very boring step class. He didn't just show up every week and do up and down and up and down. You know, it was sort of, he brought his creativity and his personality into that. That's a more extreme example in corporate America. You may not be able to do that, but where is it in your job that you can bring some of those elements into what you love? Now, the key piece is having a conversation with your leader to say, hello, Jim, or whatever your name is, Susie. I've been doing some work over the last X amount of time to really figure out what lights me up in my work. And here are some of the things that really get me going. And I feel like when I'm in these moments, I can contribute in a totally different way. And I'm looking at my job and I'm wondering how we can maybe weave some of that into the work I'm doing. Because when I do this, I know that I can create X, Y, and Z. Now, this may not be that you get to change 98% of your job into a completely different job, but there might be a couple hours in the week that your boss says, oh, you know what? We've actually been looking for someone to lead this da 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 da. I never thought you'd be interested in that, Laura. I had no idea that you love to do X, Y, and Z. Would you be interested in doing a bit of extra stuff over here? Because that might be really fun for you. Now, this only works if you've got a safe space to have that conversation. And
True.
if your leader is the type of person as they should be, to basically recognize that this information is a gift. Whenever your employee comes to you and says, I love this type of stuff, can I do more of that, please? That should be an
Mhm.
amazing gift. Some leaders are like,
Mm.
oh, you're disloyal. You should only want to do this job, you know.
Right.
But typically, the job crafting idea is it's just a little reframe for your brain instead of the black and white. This is the description. I hate it. Therefore, it's like, okay, this is what it is. How can I bring
Yeah.
my sparkle to this?
Yes. I love that, Laura. And that's a lot like we're talking about and thinking about with people being proactive, right? So even in our job search, we can be so reactive to things. And this job crafting you're talking about, it's knowing what you want, being proactive about it, and also then acting toward it. And the beautiful thing is you never know what could come from it. So I've done that over my time. I didn't know it was job crafting, like, but that's something I did in the course of my career. And it did bring me a lot of joy when I was in the corporate space. And it's similar when we're in a job search situation, being proactive, controlling the things you can control for. You can't control for your job description, right, that they gave you. But what you can do is have those conversations, know yourself, and see if you can do anything about it. And if you can't, like you said, sometimes people are in these toxic environments where it's unsafe for their mental health and they just need to get out. And that is important
Hmm.
too. And that is very important, that if that's the space you're in and you know you can't tolerate and be in that environment any longer, there's something for your health here, and something that
Yeah.
probably Laura's groups and communities could really help you in finding, minimizing that the pain at work while finding what lights you up and gives you that fizzy. Laura, I've got to transition. You and I've
I know.
been hogging the microphone. We got to get some questions out here. So
Yes,
everyone,
go for it.
Kate,
yeah, you
we have a question, actually.
thank you.
So, excuse me. The question is, Laura, do you run into situations where people feel they found their passion, but it turns out that making it their career instead of just a hobby ruins it for them? And if so, how do you approach those types of situations?
Oh, yeah, it's a really good question. It's a really good question because, what you love doesn't necessarily need to be imbued into every minute of your living day. Like the 30% guy, what I was going to continue to say on that one is my point of telling that story is not that 100% of our work should be lighting us up at every single moment in time. I mean, I think even as an entrepreneur, just ask my bookkeeper, there's moments every month where I'm like, oh, God, I have to do this. I have to find my receipts again. No one's saying that you need to skip gaily down the aisles every day with your work. And there are definitely people who I have met and who I've worked with who loved something and decided to take it into a job and maybe not necessarily, be completely lit up by that. Um, I think the challenge for people is this whole work-life balance mantra that we've been spoon-fed for years. I think people are stuck with that. They kind of feel like it either needs to go into this box or this box. And I don't know. I feel like, to me, by the way, a hobby is different to a passion. I'll just sort of get that definition out of the way. So a hobby is something that you kind of do occasionally and it's fun for you, and it's something that you'll do when you got some spare time, and it's all good. It's a hobby. A passion is something that you continually invest in, not all the time, but it's a consistent process, something that you have and this is the academic stuff, but the strong inclination, a love towards a cause, an idea, a person, an activity. And then the big thing with a passion versus a hobby is a passion is something that becomes part of your identity. So the type of people who introduce themselves at networking events like, oh yeah, I'm Jim, I'm a VP of finance, and also I'm a triathlete. Like, oh, well, triathlons are so much part of who he is that is his passion, and he loves talking about it. You do find people who are like, well, and I used to be this person. I think still have a bit of a dream for this. Used to love the baking, right? It was an outlet for me, a creative outlet. I would have these moments where I'm like, maybe I should just quit the corporate job and open a bakery. And then I did a little tiny amount of research about the fact that you have to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning, actually bake a bunch of stuff every day. It's exhausting. It's a very difficult business. And I'm like, maybe that's not for me, right? Just because you love something, it doesn't mean that it has to be your whole life. However, that passion can be imbued in your days, as like we were just talking about with job crafting. The guy who's doing the step class, it's not that he's a ballet dancer, but he's bringing an element of his passion into his work every day. It doesn't have to be the way you pay your bills at all. So I feel like it's not really a very clear answer, but yes, sometimes people feel like they should quit everything and just do the thing I love. Sometimes that works for people. I do actually know, I don't know if anyone here is from the Twin Cities, but Nicolette's Macarons is an amazing macaron shop. Nicolette used to be a finance manager, so she spent years in finance. She absolutely loved baking, loved it. And I'm using a lot of baking scenarios here. She decided that she wanted to quit the finance job and she wanted to open a bakery. She did spreadsheets of research on what the most efficient thing to bake would be to build a business. And she decided on macarons. They're small, The ingredients are, easy to come by, flexible, blah, 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 blah. She made 50,000 macarons in her spare time before she quit her job as a finance manager because she wanted to make damn sure that she had this down. And she had to get a space and she had to get. So there was a lot of commitment, and she's now got a flourishing business. There's a lot of commitment. She loved the baking. It didn't necessarily mean it was just a vague dream, right? She fully committed to it. That's an example of when it has worked. Sometimes it doesn't work.
Yeah. Yeah, it can be difficult. Definitely. Looks like we have another question. Anne-Marie, can you share that with us?
Yes. So Jackie said oh, sorry, hold on one second. In her job search, she's finding that she's overqualified for a lot of roles. And she's wondering how you would approach communicating that you're interested in the role, even though you've done quote unquote more than what the role is.
Oh, I don't know, Kate. I think that one's for you more than me.
Yeah. Well, this is interesting. Jackie, I know Jackie, she's a very, very talented person. And a lot of people that we talk to find themselves, Laura, it's like a little bit later in our careers when we've been a total badass and we've done the stuff, right? Like we've really had this fantastic career, but now we are following our passion. And so it's kind of like a pivot. And Jackie, just to loosely, I'll just say it's a slight pivot. So she's moving into doing things that are in an adjacent area to what she did before, but not exactly the same, right? Because she knows her passion, she knows what she wants to be doing more of, right? And so then when people can look at a candidate like Jackie and they say, she's overqualified, she's had too many big jobs before, why on earth would she be interested in doing something like this? And so I think really it comes back to, I'm going to say, Jackie, I'm just interpreting, how can she share when she's in these interviews that she's passionate about these things? Yes, she's done these cool things, but this is
Yeah.
really a direction she wants to move into because it's where she's like in that fizzy.
Yeah, I got something that could help. Again, may not be the $50 million silver gold bullet thing. I'm not very good on analogies. You may have noticed. I tend to make them up. Jackie, I'm not sure. I don't have the background that Kate does, but I'm not sure if you're doing this already. But one thing to try might be to try and articulate what outcomes or results your passion plus skill set could potentially create for said situation. It's great and wonderful. And actually, I love the fact that you already know something that you're passionate about and you're actually willing to make a trade-off to do that. Not many people are actually. That's why they get stuck. They're like, well, I really want to do this, but I love my $200,000 paycheck. So I'm just going to be miserable over here and not do this thing, right? So you've obviously done a lot of that work. One of the frameworks that I help passionados with is sort of midway through our process. And where people get stuck sometimes is in articulating their passion to other people, to bosses, to job interviews, to spouses, etc. And where people get stuck is sometimes they only articulate what it is they love. I am trying to think of a good example. I'm not going to use horse riding as an example again. Actually, I'm not going to use an example. I'll just take you through the framework. The idea is if you just say what you love, what is it that you love, Jackie? That might help me. I'm just trying to look in here. What's the category that you're in? Creative, like advertising creative, that type of thing.
Yeah, she's a big creative strategist. Architecture.
Ooh,
Yeah, she
awesome.
creates space. Like think of like the Olympic Village. Like who puts that idea together, right?
Whoa. Okay. So yeah, probably not gonna be able to do managing creative teams. Oh, right. Ooh, there's three very different things there, Jackie. That's interesting. So articulating what it is you love, and you've articulated it and I'm really putting you on the spot here. This is live coaching right now. So tell me, Jackie, if this is uncomfortable. You've got three different things that you love there. Three things. They're connected, but they're three things. So we can get stuck in being like, oh my God, I need to like perfectly define the thing I love. And yes, that is ideal. I love horse riding. I love, accounting. But sometimes it's not that easy, right? Sometimes if we can say, I love or I'm passionate about blip because, and you try and articulate what it is about this passion that makes it a passion for you, sort of more of the why. Because it helps, and imagine like this is an annotated sentence. Hopefully I'm doing a good enough job here of doing it on the spot. But because it helps, who are you helping with your passion? Who do you want to help? Is it individuals? Is it animals? Is it countries? Is it causes? Is it concepts? Like, because it helps. And then the last bit is create/do. And so that's your outcome. So my passion is X because the reason why, because it helps whoever your audience is and whoever you're trying to help. And then the last bit is the outcome. It's a lot more work, but I just wonder if you could sort of noodle on some of those. That might enable you to have a more open conversation with the hiring leader. Yes, they understand you love this thing, but how are you going to contribute and create results for them, which is what this is all about, right? In the business world, and being able to pull those things together a bit. And obviously it's not a definitive, I love this because of this, and this is what I'm going to do for you. It's more of a, yeah, I really think that with this, we could help these people. And what if we could create this together? And that's what you'd be getting with someone like me who has this experience versus someone like that person.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does that help? Oh, good. I know it's a lot just to
Yeah.
verbalize without slides and stuff, but I'd be happy to follow
That
it.
was really good.
Yeah.
It's so tricky. People can be intimidated by us. They can, have their own preconceptions and fears, right? When they're talking to someone that doesn't fit a normal category. And Jackie, just know you're going to find the right place that's going to love you and welcome all of these passions and skills you have to bring. I think we have one more question. So we've got time for one more question here.
Okay, so Lisa said that her hobbies and education are completely unrelated to her career. She grew into a career in account management while going through college and was laid off after 20 years with the same company, and then hired back as a contractor to manage projects. Now, in her early 40s with two small children, she's struggling to answer the question, what do I really want to do that would fulfill me while providing a comparable income for her family? She's been a contractor now for a year and a half and is in a constant state of worry. Every time she tries to segue into something new, she's confronted with feedback like, you have great experience, but we want X certification or blank number of years in blank area. Do you have any tips for her? And I think what she's saying is at the same company, she's trying to segue as a contractor.
So they laid you off after 20 years, hired you back as a contractor, and now they're saying you need to get more certification and whatnot. Sounds like, if I'm translating that properly. It's not easy, is it, Lisa? I mean, first of all, I think you're handling it very graciously, and it sounds like you have a ton of, you're interviewing. Oh, right, you're interviewing for long-term roles. Got it. So it's not your current company who's saying you need to get more certification or experience, although it sounds like it could. You never know with some of these places. Oh, there's so much in here, Lisa. This could be a much longer conversation. There's a couple of things that I'm looking at here. One is that you've got two small children. And by small, I'm guessing like toddlerish. That's kind of where I was when I started Passion Collective. Is I just realized that all I did, and this isn't meant to sound ungrateful, mainly because my daughter's in the next room. They got the day off school today. I was working this demanding job that I thought was the path I was on. I had a toddler. I was traveling. I didn't have any family here because they're 4,000 miles away. And I realized that I was doing nothing for myself whatsoever. I was going to the gym and doing the self-care stuff, but self-care is often not your passions, by the way. We tell ourselves, oh, well, I'm doing my self-care. I've got a whole thing about how we need to reframe our self-care. I'm guessing, you're in a situation where you have very little time to yourself and you're juggling like a crazy woman. You're just trying to get it in, and you've completely lost sight of the things that you used to love to do. Very similar to where I was. So I think there is a reality in that to a certain extent. I don't necessarily want to say, oh, it's fine, just leave the kids with the spouse for 3 weeks and go off to a desert island and figure it out, Lisa. It's easy. Eat, pray, love. Like, we don't have that, right? But I do think there's acknowledging that reality. I do know, if you've got the small children, part of this is creating space for yourself to figure this out, if that doesn't sound super coachy and weird. And there's got to be something in your week that someone else can take from you. So you can give yourself some space, whether it's an hour or two, to do some journaling, to have some coaching, to try an activity, to do something you wouldn't normally do. There's got to be something in your week that you can give to someone else so you can create your space for that. You're in a position right now where you're just like, and if you're a single parent, maybe there's someone else in your network who can take the kids, and you can give yourself that space. It feels like, to me, that is the first step. There's a ton of technical advice I know Kate could give you about the qualifications and the skills and all of that stuff. The second thing that I would say is, it may be that for the next X number of years, while your kids are in the age they are, a job is a job. There's and Liz Gilbert did a spin on this. It actually wasn't her idea, but there were a bunch of academics that talked about this some years ago. There are 3 categories of our work typically. There's a job, and a job pays our bills, and we can have multiple jobs. Job pays our bills. We're not unsafe or unhealthy in that job, but it's a job. We don't necessarily need to be lit up and fulfilled by it every single day, or really ever. It's a job, right? Number one, you might need a job right now. The second one is a career, and that's something that we sacrifice for over the years and we're fully invested in. That's what a lot of us were fed in in the 90s. You must have a career. The third one is a calling. So that's the thing that you're drawn to, right? And not everyone has a calling. You may just need a job right now and a bit of spare time and your own time to do something for you. And you might not know what that thing is right now, so you've got to create a bit of space for that. And by the way, it's perfectly okay to just have a job. A job's a job. You need to pay the bills. So not everything needs to be connected at this point. Hopefully that's helpful and it doesn't sound unrealistic and condescending. I've been in your spot and I know how that feels, and I'm happy to follow up to talk more about it.
Oh, Kate, I think your microphone might have died.
Oh, and Lisa says, I've gotten into some creative hobbies. That's great. I have a decent amount of autonomy. Okay, well, then you've got some good things going. I would create more space for those hobbies, those creative hobbies. And then on the job side, I think it's finding something that, does not give you that constant state of worry. I'm stating the obvious, but that's where Kate can help.
Yeah, that's where we, can you hear me now, Anne Marie? Just checking, okay. That's where we have these strategies around your search and how to go about avoiding the conversations where people are looking for criteria that are kind of actually more of recommended than required. A lot of people treat a lot of the criteria as required when they're not. And so what's the strategy to get into that conversation and have the opportunity for that conversation? And that's then where you can demonstrate, just like using that formula. Like, I love what you were sharing about my passion is X because it helps people or whatever do or create that outcome. And I think that, again, that example that we shared before for Jackie, for Lisa, I think Laura's recommendation there could work for you as well in that space. Well, we are coming to the end of time here, Laura. Can you leave us with one thought about reconnecting to our passion? Just like one thought.
Don't give up. Do not give up. It's really hard right now. The world is nuts. The media is awful. There's so many people hurting. People are upside down. Even if I'm not saying that you should be passion-filled every moment of your day, But know that when you are more connected to the things you love, whether it's in your work or in your leisure time or both of those together, you will feel better about your life. You're going to be happier and fulfilled, and you deserve to have it. So even if you're feeling down, or I'm never going to do this, maybe I just give up, I'm like mid-40s, what the hell, all these reasons, don't give up. Keep seeking that thing that lights you up, because that's what life's all about. The last line in my book is, you have one life to live. Are you truly living it? And it's meant to be a question, because I think it is a journey that we're all on. So don't give up. The other thing I was going to say, Kate, because I know we're almost out of time, we have an event coming up in a couple of weeks, the Morning Buzz that we
Yes.
run. And I would love to offer 2 guest passes to anybody who'd like to come. It's like an hour live coaching, kind of super casual, small group
What?
thing. There's only about 8 to 10 people. I keep it really small. So if anybody would like a guest pass, then just shoot me a note at laura@passioncollective.co, and we'll sort you out, and just come along and continue the conversation.
Wow. That is so generous of you.
Oh, of course.
I'm just putting this in the notes there. Yes, please connect with Laura. And where can we find out more about you? I've put your website and your LinkedIn. Connect with Laura on LinkedIn.
Yeah, please do.
She posts great ideas, very good inspiration. And then if you get involved with the Passion Collective, you can do that anywhere in the world. And there's always great events to attend where you're going to be around other people that are also in the vibe of finding out their spark and bringing it to life. So you're not alone. You're not alone when you're in community with Laura Best and what she does.
Well, thank you, Kate. I really appreciate that. I wish I could see everyone's faces, but I'll imagine them. Thank you, everyone, for coming. I've got a little taste of some of the stories and what some of you are managing right now. And I wish you all the best. Just remember your strength. Remember who you are. Remember your strength. And Kate and the team are the best partner, for sure.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Laura. It was great to have you here today. Thank you again for your time. Congratulations on the book. We're going to
Oh, yeah,
share more
thanks.
information about Laura's book when it comes out.
Here's my mock-up of my cover.
What's the timeline? Do you know yet when that's
Oh
going to be
God,
in the
I wish I
world?
knew. The title is Born to Buzz, How to Spark Your Passions Without Quitting It All. That's the mock-up cover that I've got. Summer is what they're telling me. So yeah, there'll be lots of fun stuff going on around the summer. So
Well, we will let everyone in our community know about it when it's ready. Just also before we go, want to let everyone know we're having another undeniable session coming up on May 22nd, where we're going to talk with career coach Julie Stoltman. And she's going to talk about feeling stuck is a sign. Very related to this. So feeling stuck is a sign. Now what? You want to change, but you're not sure how to figure it out. Julie's a great coach too. We're going to have her on in a couple weeks, May 22nd. So if you're interested, let us know. We'll get you the registration for that. Well, stay connected. Connect with Laura. Thanks again, everyone. And thanks to the team at Get Her Hired.
thanks, everyone. Take care.
Have a great day. Bye.
Bye.